What occurs when one of the wealthiest men in the world enters a sushi business run by a struggling family? You will be moved by this touching tale of unanticipated generosity and find yourself wanting more than sushi. When Elon Musk left his meeting at the Tesla headquarters in Fremont, California, a little after 10 o'clock at night, his stomach rumbled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten since midday. For a man who frequently joked about working more hours than there were in a day, skipping meals wasn't unusual, but tonight he felt the hunger pang more keenly as his Tesla Model S. As he silently moved through the peaceful streets, he came across a tiny, unassuming restaurant with a glowing red lantern that was swaying gently in the night breeze. The handwritten sign above the door read, Hoshi Zora Sushi, and the warm light coming from its windows stood out against the otherwise muted street, and there was something welcoming about it. Elon chose to stop and entered, where he was welcomed by a lovely blend of savory scents, warm miso broth, freshly sliced fish, and the faint tang of soy sauce. With a few wooden tables and a long counter where a man in his 60s in a clean white chef's coat worked with deliberate care, the room was simple but spotless. The only other patrons were a young couple quietly sharing a sushi platter, a man in his work uniform sipping a steaming bowl of ramen, and a woman who was probably his wife moving elegantly between the tables, her smile lighting up the room as she delivered food with true affection. Not wanting to draw attention to himself, Elon sat down at the counter. The chef greeted him with a slight bow, his hands never stopping in their work. "Good evening, what would you like tonight?" the chef asked in a quiet but assured voice. Elon looked at the handwritten menu on the wall and, while he waited, ordered a sashimi platter per the chef's recommendation. Elon found himself unwinding in the restaurant's calm cadence. The soft sound of chopsticks clinking. His life was dominated by high-stakes meetings and never-ending phone calls, yet the quiet hissing coming from the kitchen and the occasional whisper of discussion provided a completely different mood. With a proud smile, the chef set the platter in front of him. It was a masterpiece of thinly sliced tuna, salmon, and yellowtail arranged in a fan shape, topped with delicate shish sprigs and a dollop of freshly grated wasabi. "Enjoy," the chef said, moving aside to concentrate on his next dish. Elon picked up his chopsticks and took a bite of the fish, which melted in his mouth and was so fresh and high quality that he momentarily forgot everything else as he ate. It was evident to the elderly couple that this restaurant was their life, a labor of love that probably had its share of difficulties, but why did they continue? The chef's movements were steady but exhausted, his hands bearing the marks of decades of hard work, and his wife's energy never wavered, though there was a quiet weariness in her eyes. Elon pondered the subject as he finished his meal, laying the groundwork for an evening that would go down in history. He leaned back a little, enjoying his last bite of sashimi while his gaze wandered over the modest restaurant's features. Fading photos and handwritten letters from clients throughout the years adorned the walls. Some were straightforward thank you notes, but others related tales of anniversaries, first dates, or private parties. Every note was filled with appreciation and gratitude, demonstrating the significance of this location to those who knew it. The name tag of the woman seated at the tables said when the man with the ramen thanked her with a joke, Akiko took a moment to refill his water glass. Her voice was quiet, but her laughter was clearly warm. Even when interacting with each customer, Elon saw how she moved with deliberate efficiency, balancing platters and bowls as if it were second nature. There was something soothing, almost meditative, about watching the chef Hideo, as Akiko had lovingly called him earlier, remain focused at the counter. His hands worked with practiced precision, slicing tuna into perfect, even pieces. His face was etched with concentration, but it was the kind of focus that came from decades of mastery rather than the rush of trying to keep up. Even the kitchen equipment seemed to have aged gracefully with scratches and dings that spoke of countless meals. The chairs were slightly worn, their edges rounded from years of use, and the light above the counter flickered faintly, struggling to maintain its glow. Cooked with affection, Elon considered how much work it must take to maintain a business like this in a world where delivery apps and fast food chains rule. He could picture the difficulties they faced: increasing expenses, declining profit margins, and a customer base that frequently valued speed over quality. But here they were giving their all in every meal and every encounter. A family of 4 arrived at the restaurant, their laughter filling the room as they sat by the window. With the same sincere grin that she had given to everyone else, Akiko gave them a warm greeting and handed over mayonnaise. She treated each customer like an old friend, which Elon found admirable and realized was uncommon in this world. He felt a twinge of admiration for the family's perseverance and commitment as he noticed that establishments like Hoshi Zora Sushi, where food was prepared with care and people were treated with respect, were becoming harder to find. The family's youngest child, a boy no older than 6, wandered toward the counter, mesmerized by the way Hideo arranged fish slices on a plate. The chef looked down and gave the boy a quick smile before offering him a small cucumber roll to try. The boy's face brightened, and his parents immediately thanked Hideo for the thoughtful gesture. Elon chuckled softly. It was a straightforward statement that revealed a lot about the personalities of Hideo and Akiko, where they did more than just operate a restaurant. They made it a place where people felt appreciated. As he watched, Elon couldn't help but think that the world needed more of these moments of connection, and he knew he could do something about it, even if it was only a little. He started formulating an idea that would have a long-lasting effect on the restaurant and everyone who entered. Hideo was plating a colorful sushi roll for the family of 4 at the counter when Elon got up from his chair, attracting Akiko's attention. The chef looked up, startled but courteous, as Elon leaned in slightly. "This is some of the nicest sushi I have experienced. Sincerely, you're an artist," Elon remarked. Hideo's expression softened and he nodded modestly, saying, "Thank you, we try our best." After a brief moment of hesitation, Elon made the decision to proceed. "You've been doing this for a while. Have you not?" given another Hideo nod. 35 years. We founded this place when we were newly married, and it has been our home ever since." Akiko saw them talking and interrupted, coming over with a teapot. "Our kids used to help out here when they were younger, but now that they are grown and gone, it's just the 2 of us." Despite the lightness of her tone, Elon could sense the pride beneath it and sacrifice, saying that this was their life's work rather than just a business. "I can feel how much love you put into this facility." Elon remarked that it's uncommon to see Akiko smile so warmly and bow slightly these days, which means a lot. "Thank you." As Elon looked toward the restaurant, where he saw the family laughing over their meal and the man with the ramen talking to Akiko about the weather, it dawned on him that maintaining a place where people could connect, share, and feel at home was more important than simply serving delicious food. He leaned closer to Hideo and spoke quietly. "Tonight, I would like to cover everyone's meals. Could you do that for me quietly?" Hideo froze for a second, asking everyone as his knife hovered in midair and his voice was hardly audible above a whisper. "Yes," Elon agreed. "When they come to pay, let them know it's taken care of and don't make a big deal out of it." Elon responded, waving it off as a small gesture of gratitude, but he wasn't finished. After a moment, he continued, "I'd like to help you with something else. Your equipment looks like it's seen better days." Okako's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes widening, and her voice trembling slightly, and Akiko and Hideo looked at each other, uncertain of his direction. "We've been meaning to replace some things," Hideo acknowledged, "but you know costs add up. And these lights aren't the most efficient, are they?" Elon grinned and said, "What if I paid for that for you? New kitchen appliances, energy-efficient lighting, maybe even some solar panels for the roof. It would save you money in the long run." Akiko appeared to be about to cry, but Elon stopped her with a hand, saying, "What you've built here is special. People need places like this. I just want to make sure it stays, remaining for an additional 35 years." As Hideo put down his knife and held out his hand, his eyes glistened with passion. "Thank you," he whispered in a voice full of appreciation. "We'll never forget this." As Akiko rushed to the kitchen to gather herself, Elon firmly shook his hand, experiencing a unique sensation of fulfillment unrelated to rockets or electric cars. When the other patrons came to the counter to pay, Akiko's gentle announcement that "your meal has been covered tonight, please enjoy your evening" greeted them. Elon turned back to his seat and once again blended into the restaurant's quiet rhythm. Their responses ranged from stunned disbelief to, as the door closed behind the last customer, Hideo and Akiko stood together behind the counter, their expressions a mixture of gratitude and everyone wondering how one evening could hold so much kindness. The restaurant became quiet as the last customer left, the soft chime of the doorbell fading into the stillness. To joyful laughter, the family of 4 clapped their hands together in thanks, and the man with the ramen grinned broadly, shaking Hideo's hand before departing. Each person walked out with a lighter step, carrying the warmth of the gesture with them. Akiko was standing by the counter, adjusting the little vase of flowers there with shaky hands with a gentle yet enigmatic gaze. Hideo dried his hands on a towel and looked at his wife. "Did that really just happen?" Elon, who was still seated at the counter, gave them a small smile and said, "You deserve it. I meant what I said about helping with the upgrades. Someone from my team will get in touch with them in the coming days to iron out the specifics." Akiko whispered, her voice breaking slightly as she turned to her husband Hideo, who nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the same disbelief she felt. Elon said, "That's thanks enough. And the evening may have ended there. Akiko put a hand to her chest, clearly moved. We don't know how to thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. However, the evening's news traveled more quickly than anyone anticipated. Before leaving for home, one of the patrons, a man who had been eating his ramen in silence, posted on social media, saying, "Just had the most incredible experience at Hoshi Zora Sushi. The owner's kindness is unmatched, but tonight Elon Musk himself paid for everyone's meals and offered to help them upgrade their restaurant." By the next morning, the post had gone viral, with people from all over Fremont and even beyond sharing their own experiences, with many recalling the kind smiles of Akiko and Hideo and the considerate actions. The small restaurant that had been serving the community quietly for decades, like the complimentary tea refills or the little treats Hideo would make for children who came in, became the center of attention when local news outlets picked up the story. People started swarming to the restaurant, eager to experience the magic for themselves. But it wasn't just curiosity or celebrity inspired by Elon's gesture. Other acts of kindness started to surface. A local bakery offered to provide free desserts to the restaurant for a week, a nearby carpenter volunteered to build new shelves for their pantry, and even the local farmers market community stepped in, promising fresh ingredients at a discounted rate to help the couple keep expenses under control. The real joy came from knowing that he had helped preserve a place where kindness was the foundation. One evening, about a week after his visit, Elon drove by the restaurant again. The once quiet street was now bustling with activity. Families were gathered outside chatting and laughing as they waited for a table, and the soft glow of the restaurant's lights illuminated the restaurant. Hideo and Akiko were overwhelmed but deeply touched. Each person who walked through their doors seemed to carry with them a piece of the goodwill that had been sparked that night. Regulars brought friends to share in the experience, and newcomers left promising to return, for Elon had never appeared happier, and as he observed from his vehicle, an idea occurred to him. A week later, Elon was sitting at the kitchen table in his Los Angeles home, enjoying a rare moment of quiet in his usually hectic schedule, when a notification buzzed on his phone. At the heart of it all were Hideo and Akiko, who continued to do what they did best: bring people together one meal at a time. Small acts of kindness, even ones that felt insignificant in the grand scheme of things, had a way of growing into something far greater than anyone could imagine. He swiped to view another message advertising Hoshi Zora Sushi and saw a picture of Hideo and Akiko proudly standing outside their eatery with a bright new sign that reads Hoshi Zora Sushi above them. The caption stated, "Thanks to the amazing generosity of our community and one very special guest, we've been able to make some amazing upgrades. We're ready for the next 35 years. Come join us for a meal and be part of our story." It celebrated 35 years of love and tradition. Elon grinned to himself and put the phone down. He hadn't returned to the restaurant since that evening because he wanted to give the couple time to enjoy their newfound attention without the added stress of him being there, but he had kept a close eye on their journey, seeing how their little business grew into a community hub of hope. He considered how small the act was, paying for a few meals and providing some resources, but the impact it had was indisputable. The couple's perseverance and hard work had inspired him, and his gesture had inspired others. It served as a reminder that kindness, when shared, had a way of spreading far beyond its initial purpose. Not every act of kindness had to be large in order to have an impact. Sometimes it was the small things, like acknowledging someone's effort and relieving their burden, that made a difference. Elon leaned back in his chair, thinking about the innumerable small businesses across the nation, each with its own story and struggles. Or just being there in their moment, which had the greatest impact. As the evening sun cast long shadows over his table, his team was instructed the following day to contact other small eateries and community centers that offered similar assistance without any conditions. This was not about creating headlines, but rather about preserving the soul of communities and inspiring others to do the same. One of the few times Elon felt compelled to share a personal thought, he penned a brief comment on social media. Supporting individuals who keep the world running on compassion, perseverance, and hard work is the least we can do. The tweet went viral almost instantly, igniting a flurry of discussions about the value of patronizing small companies and returning the favor. People started sharing their own tales of selfless deeds motivated by what had transpired at Hoshi Zora Sushi, and although Elon didn't respond to the deluge of comments, he read them in private with a profound sense of fulfillment. The true success for him was realizing that he had contributed to something much greater than himself, a movement motivated by compassion, humanity, and the straightforward but profound idea that kindness could change lives. As he shut down his laptop for the evening, one thought lingered in his mind. If everyone took one moment out of their day to encourage someone else, Just think of the world we could create together, and that is the tale of a small act of kindness that blossomed into something much bigger. If this story moved you, consider how you can help those in your community, whether it be a small business in your neighborhood, a friend in need of assistance, or even a complete stranger. Leave a comment with your ideas, and remember to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more articles that serve as a reminder that, one tiny deed at a time, we can all work together to improve the world.